Welcome to our Week 3 preview. I am Jared Hood. This is Joe Physic. Follow me at Jared D. Hood on Twitter. Follow Joe at Joe Physic on Twitter. Catch our Hood's Huddle on Twitter. Catch the YouTube. Catch the Instagram. Check out the Facebook. Like it. Let us know if you like what we're doing or if you don't like what we're doing. We're going to hop right into it. Thursday night games. Kansas City going to Philadelphia. Andy Reid's return to Philadelphia. Donovan McNabb being honored that night. I'm pretty sure Dawkins and the rest of the gang, Hugh Douglas and all of them, I'm pretty sure they're going to be at least in attendance. But I know that McNabb's a part of the pregame ceremonies, which, that brings emotions up with Reid. That brings up the old highlights before the game. Who are you picking in this game? And then we'll go into the rest of it.
I'm going with the Eagles in my Thursday night pick. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a really interesting game with Andy Reid coming back to Philadelphia. I think he's going to put up some points. Obviously, I don't think the Eagles defense will stop anything. I just think that Chip Kelly will be able to score a few more points. I'm seeing like a 42-38 kind of score here.
I like your predictions on the scores because you did that last week, and I'm not good with scores at all, so I'm not even going to start to begin to try to figure out scores. But I think that Chip Kelly circled this game as a statement game. It's the opening game of the weekend, so everybody's everyone's paying attention to it. Andy Reid's coming back to Philly, so Chip Kelly's kind of the background story. I think he unleashes something new this weekend that we haven't seen, just to kind of be like, hey, you know what I mean? I'm here, and I think it's a statement win. I think you win the fans over. You beat Andy Reid in Philadelphia, you win the fans over. That's plain and simple.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a big game. I think the fans are going to get behind. I hope the fans get behind Andy. As an Eagles fan, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I would be cheering Andy. You never know what you're going to get. He might get, booed. He might get beers thrown at him. Who knows? But with McNabb being honored, I think that adds an element. I'm going with Philadelphia too, just because I think Chip Kelly's going to throw out things in this offense that the NFL hasn't seen yet. And I think they're going to be more. I think every week's a learning experience, and I think every week prior was another chance to get that to be a well-oiled machine, so that they can eventually be that dominant, nonstop, always win offense. But the X factor is that defense is really, really bad. Alex Smith hasn't given a turnover up yet. I know the Eagles have a lot of turnovers. Alex Smith hasn't thrown one interception. That's a big deal. I think that's something to watch for. I think that's going to be the key to this game. If the Eagles can force some turnovers, I don't think it's a question. And I think Chip Kelly's offense will score enough points to win, especially if they're getting some turnovers. If not, we're going to have a really interesting game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a good one to watch. The next one we got, one of the 1 o'clock games would be the Texans going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think this is a really big statement game for just either team that wins. Regardless of which team wins, it's going to be a big statement game for them. I'm going with the Houston Texans in this game. I haven't been impressed with what I've seen from Baltimore, even though they did pull out a win against the Browns. They didn't allow any touchdowns or anything like that. So that's definitely a confidence builder going into this game. I think it's going to be a tight game because the Houston Texans haven't played their best football all year yet, really either. But I think the Texans will pull out with like a 3-point win.
I think it's really funny because the last few weeks, I've been more of Texans are good, but I'm not a Texans believer. And you've been Baltimore is good, but you're not a Baltimore believer. And I don't think there's any problem with either of them because I don't think either team is that legit great team. And I think that's what makes them both so interesting. I'm going with Baltimore because I think it's in Baltimore, and I think both teams have a lot of question marks. And I don't think either team is as legit as they think, but I think both teams think that this is one of those, they walk into the party and everybody's looking at them like, all right, there's some real tough opponents, but nobody looks at them as, real big threats to take the whole thing this year. But I think both teams look at this game as a big game. I think we learn a lot about both teams. If the Ravens offense can come together, I don't think it's too much of a really tight game, but man, the Ravens offense was really off this week. I know Cleveland has a decent defense, but I think the Texans have a better defense. I don't know if Ed Reed's going to play or not first time back in
that would be kind of interesting.
Baltimore. But either way, I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think you learn a lot about both teams. I'm not a big Matt Schaub believer. They got to figure it out with the kicking. But who knows? This game is wide open, so we're going opposite directions.
So we'll see when I can rub it in your face next week.
That's all right. That's all right. Listen, I had one with you last week. I had that Seahawks game on you. Sure. Moving on, the 2-0-2 teams, the Giants go into the Panthers. This game is, and let me just say, every game this week, you're going to learn a lot about both teams. And I know we could probably say that for every game, but there's storylines left and right through these games so far. I mean, these two teams, this is almost a must-win for both teams in Week 3.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's hard to say it's a must-win in Week 3, but they're both 0-2. I'm going with the Giants in this game, just because I have been impressed with what I've seen from the Panthers so far this season. Their defense is just pretty horrendous for the most part. They did give up the win to E.J. Manuel. This is only his second start in the league. Against Eli Manning, a two-time Super Bowl MVP. I think he'll probably be able to pick apart the Panthers defense this weekend here. And I think the Panthers will put up some points, but I don't think they're going to win the game.
You should be right. You should be right. I think the Giants should win this game, but I'm going against you. I'm picking Carolina. I think Cam comes around because something tells me he just doesn't let that happen 2 weeks in a row. What happened? I think if the game's in his hands and he has a shot to make it a 10-point game instead of a 6-point game or a 7-point game instead of a 3-point game late, he's going to have to try. He's going to have to go for it. He's got to pull it out at some point. Giants don't have much of a run game at all, and the Carolina defense hasn't played great, but they played pretty well against the Seahawks team going across country. I had 1 o'clock start, whole different story, and a very inexperienced Bills offense, but I still think Carolina's defense has played well, surprisingly, through Week 1 and 2. I think Cam's got to find it. It's got to be there. The Giants haven't played that great a defense. I'm going with the Panthers. I'm riding with them for one more week. I don't know if it's because I like Cam that much or not. We'll see if I'm being foolish or not. I think the Giants should win, but they just haven't shown me anything that says that they have any shot at winning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, if you go to the next game, you got Detroit in a very interesting matchup with Washington. Not a must-win for Detroit, but pretty much feeling like a must-win for Washington. We got RG3 here. Detroit, I mean, who are you picking?
I'm going with Detroit. RG3 just hasn't looked like himself so far this season. I haven't seen much to say that's going to happen in Week 3. The Redskins' defense is pretty horrible, allowing 140 rushing yards to James Starks.
132 or something.
Yeah, so whatever it was, it's kind of just ridiculous. That shouldn't happen. So I think that the Lions will be able to do some work, especially I'm not sure if Reggie Bush is playing in this game or not, but if he is, he's definitely a factor that they got to watch out for then. So I like the Lions.
If Reggie Bush plays in this game, I think we have another first half of the Eagles Redskins like we did in Week 1. I'm picking Detroit, and I think Detroit should run over them with or without Reggie Bush. Matt Stafford, hot and cold, but I think he plays well enough. I think you can target Megatron this whole game and you can win. RG3 in the Redskins offense, 0 for 9 in the first half on third down. That's in the first half is the only time that has really even mattered where the game has been close. So I think that says a lot about them right now. But I think we're on the same page here. I don't think Detroit's defense is good, but I don't think they're that bad. I think they can hold RG3 in check, and I think Detroit's offense is good enough to run over that defense no matter who's playing. So I'm going with Detroit right now.
Next game, we got the Chargers going to the Titans. Kind of ironic. This is two teams we kind of talked about earlier. As you know, we didn't expect a lot from them, and they're showing a lot more than we expected to see from them. The Titans are playing some real hard-nosed, passionate football. I really like the way that they're playing. The Chargers squeaked out a win against the Eagles. Then they had a tough loss to Houston. I'm going with the Titans in this game. I think that they are going to win just based on how they've been playing. They've been playing real tough football, and I like the way they're playing. I think they can pull out a win against a decent Chargers team.
I don't always go with it, and it's not like 100% stat, but the West Coast to East Coast 1 o'clock start, and I know the Chargers beat the Eagles last week on a 1 o'clock start going West Coast to East Coast, but I think it's unfair for them by the league that they have to go West Coast to East Coast 2 weeks in a row and start 1 o'clock 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if they're staying on the East Coast or not, but I would, I guess, if I was the Chargers. Either way, I don't think the Chargers win. I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're that talented. I don't think the Titans are a great team either, but I just think that I'm a believer in that, and I'm going to take that stat, and that stat alone is my reason why the Titans win. I think they're pretty much equal teams, though. We'll see. I mean, Rivers played really well in most of the Week 1 and all of Week 2 against not a great Eagles defense in Week 2, but we'll see. I think this is going to tell a lot about both teams. I don't think either team is that great, though. So, but I'm picking the Titans to get their second win of the season. The next game was it's Arizona going to New Orleans. Saints play better at home. But, I mean, they looked pretty sloppy on the road. Arizona got the come-from-behind win against Detroit at home this week. Who do you have winning this one?
I'm going with the Saints, mainly just because it's in the Superdome. You know, the Saints always show up when there's a game at home. The Cardinals have been playing decently. They do have a pretty decent defense. So, you know, I think it'll be a decent game, but I'm going with the Saints in this one.
I'm picking the Cardinals. I think it's going to be close. Larry Fitzgerald playing, I think, does have a pretty good key on it. I like how Carson Palmer played late in the game on Sunday. I like how the Honey Badgers have been playing week 1 and 2. I'm just not sold on New Orleans. They didn't play well at all against a pretty bad, at least dysfunctional Bucs team right now. I don't know. I think New Orleans plays really well at home. They play really well at home, and they play really bad on the road. And I get this is a home game for New Orleans, but something my gut's just telling me, just take Arizona. Just take Arizona.
I think it'll be interesting. I think Carson Palmer can put up some points, depending if he has Larry Fitzgerald. It does change the game a little bit. The Saints' defense isn't all that good, so I expect it to be somewhat of a shootout. But I still think the Saints can hold on, just because it's at home.
Okay. Drew Brees, man. Anytime you got Drew Brees, you have a chance in a shootout. Drew Brees. Tampa Bay going to New England for our next game. Tom Brady with nobody playing, like I just said, a dysfunctional Bucs team. But they put up a lot of good numbers last year. They played really well. Who are you picking?
I'm going with the Patriots. Just because they, always seem to win, and especially what we saw from the Bucs last week here against, a bad Saints defense that wasn't able to pull out more than 14 points for a victory. I'm going with the Patriots. Tom Brady doesn't have all the weapons in the world right now, and he's going to have a matchup with Darrelle Revis, but I still think that the Patriots can probably pull out a win.
I agree. I'm going to take the Patriots. Like you said, the at-home thing is, in my eyes, a big deal. Revis and Brady have had a lot of good back and forth. Brady doesn't have any really receiver to go up against Revis, though, so I think they're just going to go completely away from him all day, which is probably the best idea. Gronk's 50-50 as of today. That doesn't mean anything really to me. If he's not going to play, he's not going to play. I don't know. I think overall, the Bucs offense isn't clicking as well as you would like. 14 points only last game, and they didn't put up a lot of points. They've gotten a lot of dumb penalties. They just haven't been coached well to this point. Doug Martin hasn't gotten as involved as he was last year, and I think that's a big deal in and of itself. Vincent Jackson's having a good year. But overall, this is only week 3. The Patriots are going to get it together where you don't expect the Bucs to be able to get it together as fast. I'm going with Tom Brady at home in week 3 against an average team. So that's the only reason I'm picking Patriots pretty much. The next game is Green Bay going to Cincinnati. This is going to be a really good game. It's a very interesting matchup. Cincinnati played well at home on Monday night. They're playing another home game here against Green Bay, but they're playing a lot better opponent in Green Bay. Defenses are pretty similar in Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Neither of them are that great, but you got a really high-paced, fast octane, a lot of scoring offense coming from the Packers. Can Cincinnati keep up with it? Who you got?
I'm going with Cincinnati. I think the game at home here is going to give them a little bit. I know they did stop the Steelers to 10 points this weekend. Not the Steelers' offense is that great right now. Especially it's completely opposite from with the Green Bay Packers here. I think the Packers score. The Bengals definitely need to put up more points than they did this on Monday night if they want to win, but I think they'll do it, and I'm going with the Bengals. I think A.J. Green's going to have a real big day since the Steelers kept him pretty quiet.
Yeah, I'm going with Green Bay, but I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I think Cincinnati probably hit a lot of offense. That Pittsburgh team, you don't need to score a whole lot of points. So once you put up enough points on the board, you can kind of shut it down early and save your energy and kind of just rely on your defense. The only problem is your defense going up against a really good offense with a lot of receivers. Who knows if Eddie Lacy's going to be healthy or not? I don't think James Starks is going to go through it for 130 again, pop off like that if Eddie Lacy isn't back. And I don't think Eddie Lacy's going to run for 130 at all in this Bengals defense. But I do think you have a good shot with Eddie Lacy in there. Even without him in there, those receivers are really hard to cover. I don't know if the Bengals cornerbacks are deep enough. We'll see. I'm picking Green Bay, but I think it's going to be a really good game. I think if it goes into a shootout, Green Bay has it, but I think the Bengals defense can, if they get some momentum early and make some big stops, who knows where that game could go.
Yep. Next up, we got the Rams heading over to Dallas against the Cowboys. I'm going with the Rams in this one with what most would probably say the upset. I've liked what I've seen from the Rams. I'm really high on the Rams. They're my sleeper team this year. I haven't been impressed with what I've seen from the Cowboys so far this season. I called the Chiefs pulling out the victory. I think the Rams are going to squeeze one out here against the Cowboys as well. So I'm going with the Rams.
Disclaimer to our pick. Week by week, we go individually. I go by myself and look at the schedule, who's playing who, and I pick my teams, and you do the same. And when I got to this game, I couldn't pick a team, and I waited until we had our little meeting. And when we had our meeting, we got to this game, and both of us looked at each other and said, I don't know. I'm going with the Rams, too. Just because I'm not sold on Dallas more than I'm sold on the Rams. I like the Rams. I like the Rams coaching staff. I like the Rams defense. I like Tavon Austin, and I'm a big Sam Bradford fan. There's a lot to like in Dallas. They are very talented, but don't we go through this year after year? Dallas this, Dallas that, Dallas this. Romo's good enough to win this game. Des Bryant drops the ball late last game. They probably should be 2-1, 2-0 instead of 1-1. But they are 1-1, and those are the kind of things that happen. This is a game where the Rams can make a breakout. Hey, look at us. We're the Rams. We're better than what people think. We're going to be. They could go 2-1. They played it close. It was a blowout, but they ended up getting it close in Atlanta. I think if they keep it close all game, they have a really good shot with Tavon Austin and Bradford together. Plus, they got Richardson running. I mean, and that defense. The defense is gritty. A defense is tough. They're not a talked about team. I think people are just expecting Dallas to kind of pull this out, even if it's a close one. They're just expecting Dallas to pull this out. I think the Rams. I'm a believer in the Rams. I like them as your sleeper pick. I do believe. I'm a believer. I really am. Jeff Fisher, man. I think it's something to do with him.
Yep. Dude, he's a monster.
Our next game is Cleveland going to Minnesota. I had Cleveland as a way better team than what they're showing. I was just full. I was just being dumb, I guess. I don't know. But if this wasn't a must-win game for Minnesota, I think it's closer. But Minnesota being 0-2, they have to win this game. I think Cleveland has no shot just because of that alone. And I think Potter's going to come out and play better. I think Peterson's just going to run all over him. If that's what he has to do, that's what he has to do. I think this Minnesota defense, to me at least, played well against a really good Chicago offense. And 30 points from Minnesota's offense last week. I really think they're going to pull out. I should easily win this game because of the circumstances.
I agree. Their backs are against the wall. They really need to win this one. You can't go down 0-3 and expect to, make the playoffs. So they really have to win this week. I know Adrian Peterson's not going to let them lose. So I will, along with you, I think he's going to have a great day. The Browns defense is relatively stout, but I don't think it's going to be enough to keep Peterson in check. And then with the rest of the offense, I think it's going to open up, and I think the Vikings should win pretty handily.
Even per se, and I might be proved completely wrong on Sunday when the Browns are winning late, but even per se, Cleveland's defense keeps this game close all game. You would just assume that their offense has no chance of keeping up with Minnesota's offense. Even if Minnesota scores 12, 13 points, it could be over at that point.
Right. Yep. I agree.
Our next game is Atlanta going to Miami. Miami was my sleeper pick, and just like you, how you were going right for it, I'm going right for it. I'm saying Miami beats Atlanta because it's a road game for Atlanta. I think if this was in Atlanta, we're talking about a different game. But I'm a big Tannehill fan, man. He hasn't started a whole lot of games in his whole entire life at quarterback. He's getting better and better and better. They got a good offense. He found Mike Wallace. I like their defense. I like what Philman's doing down there. I'm a Miami believer, and I'm taking them to beat Atlanta.
I'm going with the Falcons in this one. I think that Matty Ice is going to come out and have a good day. With them being 1-1, they really need to show, that, hey, we're still the team you got to deal with. We're still that number one team that you need to come after. So I'm excited to see this game. I think it should be a pretty good game. I think Tannehill will have a relatively good game, especially at home against the Falcons. So I think that Matt Ryan pulls out on a 2-minute drive down the field to win it. A relatively close one.
So you think that he has an opposite of what he did the last game of last season, the NFC Championship, and the first game of this year? That's pretty interesting. My only thing about this game is that it is the Dolphins' first home game, and they are 2-0, and one was against a good Indy team. I think if they win this game, we can put them as a legitimate threat to take the AFC East. They got to win this game, though. They have to win this game for us to even start taking them any more serious than what we are. Like I said, they're my sleeper, but this is that week. This is the week I think they can prove it to a lot of people.
I agree. I like that pick.
Okay. The rookie quarterbacks going up against each other. E.J. Manuel with Buffalo going to take on the New York Jets with Geno Smith. Geno Smith has played really well. He's played a lot better than what people thought in the first 2 weeks. E.J. Manuel's played a lot better than what people thought in the first 2 weeks. I'm a big fan of both these guys. It's a very interesting matchup to me. This is going to come down to, does it come down to them two, or does it come down to other parts of the teams?
No, I think it's going to come down to those two. It's going to come down. One of them's going to have to make the big play at the end of the game, I think, to win it. I think they should have a relatively good back and forth game. I think it should be a good matchup to watch. E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith go at it. So I think that'll be really interesting. It'll be, two kind of relatively young offenses now with Geno Smith in there. They're still kind of getting the feel for each other. So I think it's going to be interesting to see which one comes out on top. I'm going with the Bills in this one. I like what I saw from E.J. Manuel so far. Not to say that the Jets defense isn't looking pretty good, along with, Geno Smith doing pretty well as well. But I like the Bills in this one, mostly for Terry Wolf.
I find it very interesting that this is a 4:00 start. I think it's weird that you put it on the 4:00 schedule, but hey, I mean it's definitely something to watch for. I'm taking Buffalo and E.J. Manuel as well, only because when Geno Smith was in the same spot that E.J. Manuel's in right now, Geno Smith didn't score, E.J. Manuel did score. That's the only difference right now between these two teams, but you're right. I think the Jets defense played really well. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be something to watch for during the 4:00 hour. Another game during the 4:00 hour is the two. I know Kaepernick's not a sophomore quarterback, but the two second-year starters going at it. Andrew Luck going the whole way to San Francisco to play the Niners. I'm taking the Niners because I think they have the best offense, because I think they have the best team, and I think they're going to be very, very angry about what happened last week, and they're going to come out and try to put a statement up. And I don't think the Colts have a good offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going with the 49ers in this one, too. After being beat last week, I think they're going to come out with a little bit of a vengeance, be like, hey, we're the dominant team. We're going to come out and we're going to prove it. And I think they will. I think the Colts will put up some points. I think, like you said, with their offensive line being, as weak as it is right now, I think Andrew Luck's going to have a harder time really getting down the field. I can see him getting, the Colts at least 3 touchdowns, but I can see the 49ers scoring plenty more. So I'm going with the 49ers as well.
Thing that goes in Indianapolis' favor in my eyes is that nobody's really watching for them to do much because they lost against the Dolphins last week. So I think this is one of those, they could come up and scare people, you know what I mean? But I don't think the 49ers are going to take them lightly. I think Harbaugh understands, being Luck's original coach, right. I think Harbaugh understands what's going on. I think that's what gives them the edge. If it wasn't for that, I think that Indy would have a way better chance than they do. I still think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's a blowout by any means, but I have the 49ers winning for a lot of different variations of things.
I agree. Next one we got in the 4:25 time slot, we got the Jaguars going to Seattle. We've already talked about how hard Seattle is to play in, especially with what just happened to the 49ers. I don't even really think we need to discuss this game, to be honest. The Jaguars scored a whopping 11 points in the first 2 weeks, 1 whole touchdown and 2 safeties. So, yeah.
Over under 2 points, Jacksonville.
Under.
He thinks they scored nothing. Wow, I agree. Actually, I completely 100% agree. The only chance they have of scoring any points is that Russell Wilson runs out of the back of the end zone by himself, or for some reason Beast Mode runs out of the back of the end zone by himself. Marshawn Lynch. I don't even think Jacksonville's a chance. It should be over by halftime. I think, and I'm a Notre Dame fan just like you, absolutely biggest USC hater you'll ever meet. But you remember those years where USC was just rolling kids at like 35-10 at halftime? I think Pete Carroll's going to pull one of those out. You know what I mean? Like, remember when they just wouldn't let up? I think he's going to do that. I think at halftime it's going to be some ridiculous college score, and then, from there on out it'll just be one of those average NFL blowouts. But I do think going into halftime, Seattle will impress until then.
Yeah, I agree.
Our 8 o'clock game that on Sunday is Chicago going to Pittsburgh, which kind of interesting, but neither of us were Pittsburgh believers last week. I'm going with Chicago because I love Cutler and I love Marshall and I love the Bears defense and I like the new head coach from the CFL, and I just like a lot of things about the Bears. They're an NFC wild card in my eyes. So, and they played really well in the first 2 weeks against better teams in Pittsburgh. So I'm going with the Bears.
Yeah, me too. Pretty much for all the same reasons. The Steelers are just having too many problems right now with all the injuries and everything that's been going on. There's no way. The Bears have just been playing amazing. I expect the Bears to go 3-0. Go to the next level with these. I have the Bears going deep into the playoffs. So.
Big Ben and Todd Haley just not on the same page, and when you're playing a pretty good defense that has played two pretty good offenses at this point, add it with an offense that scored 30 points in both weeks and late game-winning drives. I don't see Pittsburgh having much of a chance just because of what's happened this year. And like you said, the injuries, so talent alone, it's going to be hard for them to compete. But this is one of those games. This is a nationally televised game on Sunday night. This is a game where Pittsburgh, if they're going to make a statement and make a turnaround, this is the week to do it.
Yeah, they'll do it. I agree.
They have to. They have no choice.
Yeah. And then the Monday night game, we got the Raiders going to Denver to face the Broncos.
Interesting.
Based on what I've seen from Peyton Manning thus far in the season, I am going with the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. If you're going against the Broncos, you're crazy. And it's not because Oakland's played bad, because Oakland's played two good games. They got to win. Obviously, one was against Jacksonville. Indy's not the best team, maybe they're a better team than we think. I'm not sure yet. Jury's out on them, even though we were both Indy fans going into this. Oakland, they impressed me. They impressed me, but they don't impress me enough to beat Denver, especially in Denver on Monday night. Manning has 9 touchdown passes right now. Does he get 5 in this game, over under 5?
I'm going to go under 5, but I think he can get 4. I think he'll get at least
I go with
3 or 4.
Okay, I go with 3. I think he has a chance to get 7 again. That's a joke.
I think
he's
he has to get 7 too. I don't think he will though.
I think his ceiling is 5 in this game, but I think he gets 3. I think he gets 3, but still, that's a lot of touchdowns for 3 weeks of a season.
Yeah.
That was so we're both going with Denver. That was our that was a preview. What are your 3 points that you're watching for this weekend?
This weekend I'm watching Houston. They need to make a statement game if they want to come out and prove that they've been one of these dominant teams. They need to come out and they need to play well against the Ravens this week if they want to, show that they are that dominant team. So I think, them playing well is really a big key. They need to win that game, assert themselves as the, top of their division again. Also then, my next one would be the Bengals. The Bengals need to show that they can be dominant as well. They need to come up and score some points this weekend, prove that they can also take over their division as well, which I really like their odds because they're definitely up and coming with the young guys. And then my final point of this weekend, I'm going with the Falcons need to win in Miami to avoid a 1-2 start. I think a 1-2 start would be kind of detrimental to them, especially with Steven Jackson being kind of hurt now. So I think they need to come out, they need to win in Miami, show that they can win on the road against a young and upcoming Miami Dolphins team.
We have a few head-to-heads this weekend, but I think that's one of our biggest head-to-heads just because I'm so big on Miami right now. And, I agree with everything you said about Atlanta. I think you agree with everything I've said about Miami. So I think that's one of our biggest head-to-heads because there's a lot of different pieces to that puzzle that's going to be really fun to watch on Sunday. 3 points I'm most interested on, Andy Reid come back to Philly. I don't know if it's just because I'm an Eagles fan or if it really is that big of a deal, but I think it's a very big deal. Anytime you're going back to a city for the first time after 14 years, a city that loved you a lot at one point and then started hating you at the end, I'm excited to see how the Philly crowd reacts. I'm excited to see how Chip Kelly if he changes his offense, if he adds more in there, if he tries to make this a statement game, or if he just takes this as every other game, I mean, there's a lot of very cool things. McNabb's going to be in the house getting honored. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things going on in Philly on Thursday night. I think that's a big game. Just a big, Andy back in Philadelphia is a big thing to watch for. Another thing I'm interested in is the rookie quarterbacks going at it. Buffalo going against the Jets. I'm excited to see E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith. I think that's going to be very cool. And I know, like I said earlier, I know Kaepernick's not a sophomore, but I'm going to throw that in there. The second-year quarterbacks going at it. I think it's really cool that we're getting 2 games with 4 young quarterbacks who are pretty much the future of the NFL. I think that's really neat to see, especially since they're so already up there close to the elite players, if not already elite players. And my third thing I'm interested in is just, these big games, teams that we have question marks about, St. Louis and Dallas, they're going up against each other. You said Houston and Baltimore, they're going up against each other. The 0-2 Giants versus the 0-2 Carolina Panthers, that is almost a must-win game. Arizona, I mean, that's a big game. I'm excited to see all these question marks, how they play out. We haven't seen this kind of parity in the NFL in a while. I know we had a lot of parity last year, but for week 3, man, I mean, all these games are in the air. Every game right now, other than really Jacksonville, you have no definitive win or loss.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited for this weekend. I think it's going to be a great weekend for football. I think it's going to be a lot of interesting games going on, a lot of tight games. I think there's going to be a lot of close ones to watch for. So I think it should be an exciting weekend.
I don't have a college game to tell you to go watch to close it out like I did last week. So just go watch Notre Dame and Michigan State because go Irish. You know what I'm saying? This is Hood's Huddle. I'm at Jared D. Hood on Twitter, Joe Physic on Twitter. Go follow our Hood's Huddle on Twitter. Go follow our Hood's Huddle on Instagram. Get us on Facebook. Get us on the YouTube page. Let us know if we're doing good or bad. Like I said earlier, hey man, it's another good week. I got you last week, so we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's go. Can't wait to rub my winning picks in your face next week.
We'll see. Don't start too early, buddy.